fast forward 5 years, I promise you, I don't care if someone add up all of the dollars that was spent that was put into the DEI initiative. If we look at the future, it's not moving the needle.
Yeah.
There's really not much that's different. A lot of it was misspent. A lot of it went to the wrong places.
Come on now.
I had so many of these, peers in this space that was saying, I have all this money, I don't even know where to give it to. And I'm like,
and why you have the money?
Why do you have the money?
With Every Day is a Yay! And we are here at the NSBE conference at the epicenter of Black excellence in tech. So come on in, dive in. We got a special conversation for you and get ready to spread the Yay! I am with the iconic, the dynamic, the trailblazer, Darrell Booker. Okay, when I tell you he bridges tech and social impact, has worked with the biggest brands, is the leading force behind Microsoft support for nonprofits, and so much more. Y'all, we're gonna dive into so much into this episode. So give a big yay welcome to Darrell Booker. So we're gonna dive in. Okay, so come on through. Let's go.
Let's go. See, I didn't know about NSBE, and for me now, reflecting on my childhood, I needed it. So, going into the 5th grade, my parents moved out into the county. And then I was the only Black in my class. And through
your entire class?
My entire class, because the school in the city had prepared me from a reading. So when I moved to the county, it was like, oh, you're reading above the normal level. We're going to put you in honors classes. So from the 5th grade through middle school, through high school, most of the time I was the only Black or maybe one of two. And for me, it was like I had to hide being a geek. You follow me? I had started getting into computers, but like all of my friends, like from neighborhood or I played sports in, none of them was into computers. And I was like, I was in this weird position of I had nobody to relate to or everything like that. I had to hide my geekness. Now it's cool, but I had to hide it. And now that I really understand the NSBE community, especially for young, it would have been beautiful because at least I could have connected with some other local, Black kids that look like me and wouldn't have felt so alone. And it's kind of crazy, even though my entire life still prepared me for here. There was a time when, I had suffered some depression and things because there was a lot of isolation throughout my life. Being an only child until the age of 14. You know what I mean? Things like this, this shock of, not even understanding race because I was in the city and it was very much a mix. All of a sudden, you're now the only Black, in the county where we wasn't supposed to, all the racism we was experiencing. So there was a lot of isolation for me, probably literally not until I got to college that things changed. And even that was a little bit of a transition for me. So I wonder how I might have been different had I been, had this community of like-minded people. So,
but in a way, like, did that kind of fuel you to make that change? Like, what made you get to like, hey, I'm owning loving tech, but also making it and bridging it to social impact?
So the bridging it to social impact was much, much later in life. And it was, for me, it was, after being a tech lover and, doing tech for state, federal, had my own company, climbed to these CIO, CTO roles back at home. I wasn't getting fulfilled in because I started so early. I had built something at the age of 14 that my dad took to a Fortune 500 company that he worked for that they started using.
Wait, y'all get that? 14.
At 14, I coded a program. He told me he's like, we do this thing and we track it on paper. And I started coding. I was like, well, let me see if I can build an app. And I did it. He took it to his boss and their entire department was using this app to basically track all their work. So at that moment, I was like, I know I can do this. Fast forward, at the age of 18, I was working full-time in tech for the state. I had only at that point did
14.
No, At 14, I started.
First thing you started.
By 18.
By 18.
Three semesters of college in me, I was already working full-time in tech, Department of Corrections, working on their help desk. And at that point, when they offered me the full-time job, I was making more money than my mom and dad.
18?
So, yeah, 18. So, you know, think about being full-time in tech at the age of 18. And like I said, working across state, federal, you know, a long stint in banking and automotive, you know, 10, 15 years later into my career, I had a tech startup. I felt like I did everything.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, a lot of people may not really start their career into the mid-20s sometime later.
People are still figuring things
still
out.
People figuring out.
You
right.
already have been in the
So
industry.
I'd already been in it, and
Yes,
I said to myself, okay, I'm not getting fulfilled anymore. Like, this isn't, you know, me using all of my tech brain power, leading teams, especially working in the private sector, just so someone else can make money. Yeah. It wasn't fulfilling. I was like, my tech knowledge has to be for something else. So
it's like you were given these gifts for a reason.
It was real natural for me because I became like this gadget geek.
Yeah.
And that kind of came from my dad a little bit, just from stuff like his stereo.
Okay.
And I was fascinated with a stereo. You know what I mean? And my dad was very much like, all right, don't be messing and touching my stuff. So what he would do as an only child for Christmas, guess what I would get? My own stereo. You know what I mean? Touching it. So it was just stuff, you know, from stereo to, of course, like video games and other things. Like, I was just a gadget geek, is the way to say it. And I still am to this day. Yeah. My dad brought a computer home.
Okay.
And it was in his office. And Richmond, Virginia, very hot and humid in the summertime. Yeah. And my friends down the street, you know, Darrell, want to come out and play? And I was the type, hey man, I'll come out about 7:38 when the sun come down. Yeah. You know, like, again, I'm in the house. I got tons of gadgets and stuff to play. I got TV, we got food. I catch y'all when it cool down. You
got your own little paradise.
I got my own. So he brought that computer home, and I used to start messing with it during the day. But remember, I was telling you the fear of don't touch his stuff. Yeah. My dad religiously got off at 4. At 4:30, he was backing in the driveway. So as a kid, you know when you need to get stuff.
Exactly.
So
once I see the car, I'm like.
So for me, waking up in the morning after him and my mom leave, and I would go get on the computer. Yeah. The fear of him knowing that I was on it by 4:30 actually accelerate me teaching myself. So I literally self-taught myself at that time, DOS and prompting and getting on these, they were called BB's bulletin board networks, and just doing a bunch of stuff all on my own. And like I said, the fear of him fussing at me because I was on this computer forced me to learn things and then also undo them. Yeah. So when he got on the computer, he wouldn't even know I was on it. Wow. But it was kind of, I don't know.
And that's like the core thing of hacking is like break something and then fix it. So you don't even notice the difference.
There was no trace.
Wow.
And then I don't know at what point I revealed to him that I knew stuff or how to do stuff. And like I said, literally, he came home one day and he was like, hey, you know, we have to keep track on paper, you know, all the jobs we do. So his job, like this massive convention center, he was part of the team that would come in and basically bring all the power to it while it's being built. Wow. And just all the work that they were doing, all the jobs, back then they were literally tracking stuff on paper. I said, you know what? It should be a program that you can go on and
automate, especially back. Wow.
So created a program. He looked at it at home, tested it. I was like, this is great. He was like, I should take this to my boss. I burnt it to a CD. He took it to his boss. They loved it. And then they started using it for all that entire department. And that was at that moment, you know, maybe from the start to the end, I maybe was no older than 15, maybe still 14, that I said, okay, I can do this. And I had a different level of confidence because it's like, you know, hey, I can go through classes and all that and I can get taught, but I already know that I know how to build solutions for major corporations. So it put a different level of confidence in me that I don't see sometimes in young people, because they're not as, one of the things they don't prioritize is getting early experience.
Exactly.
And if
you made that for yourself.
And if you get that early experience, it changes the game and your confidence. So,
because no one can tell you can't do something when it's like, no, I literally have been helping Fortune 500 companies.
And I know how to do it.
I know how to do it.
Yeah. So fast forward, and like I said, CIO, CTO roles, I was going home with a headache every day because, you know, I was always in a position to where people tell me, Darrell, you're not a normal geek. So yes, I can spend half the day with my team coding and all that.
Yeah.
But then I go in the room with the rest of the execs and we talk about high level things.
Yeah.
So in those rooms with them, they really wanted me to do certain things from a code and a solution level that I didn't agree with. And I didn't agree with it is one of my favorite mantras is build for the future, not the now.
Okay, and they were trying to build for the now.
They were building for the now. And, you know, I like to build for the future for a couple reasons. One is, you know, where is this business, where is this thing going to be 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah.
How do we prepare for it? Also, two, you know, I'm a man of my word and my name. If I decide to leave today or tomorrow, I want to make sure that you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because then you know my name was always attached to it, and I made sure you were good.
Right. So, you know, I never was a fan of what I call essentially creating a bunch of spaghetti code.
Yeah.
Where you're building in all this stuff just to solve something for now, and for them, they wanted to do it because it would make them $20 more apart.
Versus like when you think about it, the better investment is when you build for the future.
For the future.
You're talking about $20 when it could really be $20 million.
Later on, you know, but you have to have that mindset. So like I said, I just wasn't getting fulfilled. And I swear this was the man upstairs. I had flew, I think, Kansas City for a conference. And I was coming back. Somehow either I missed my flight or was getting on it early and I was on standby.
Yeah.
And you know how when you do standby, you go to the counter and they say, we got to clear everybody.
Yeah.
Sit there.
You gotta
we'll
just
let
like,
you know.
wait for your time.
So
it's not fun.
So I'm sitting there and I'm coding something.
Yeah. I'm trying to, wow.
So imagine
it all makes sense, y'all.
So, it does. So this young black guy, you know how you see someone, but you don't really see him? So I'm sitting there, I'm coding, I'm doing my thing. And I can see he walks up, he's on the phone.
Yeah.
Don't really pay much attention. And then he kind of sits on the floor up against the wall, but not too far from me.
Yeah, like you could, like he's in your purview.
But I'm in, and I can just hear bits and pieces of the conversations, and I can basically hear he's trying to fix something because something went wrong. That's what I could tell.
Yeah.
I'm coding. I'm in Visual Studio doing something.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Visual Studio.
Yeah. So it gets to the point they basically loaded the plane, and it's like, you know, a couple minutes before they can tell me whether I get on.
Yeah.
The guy walks up to me and said, "Hey," he said, "I looked at your screen. Are you a coder developer?" I'm like, "Yeah." So then he says, "Do you have any connection to foster care?" First of all, I look at him like it's crazy, like, why are you asking me that?
Exactly.
Second of all, bro, I'm trying to figure out if I can get on this plane.
Exactly.
Like, why are you sparking this conversation?
Like, this is not the time, wrong time.
And I immediately said, I looked at him like, no connection to foster care. And then something hit me. And I was like, oh yeah, my mom was in foster care.
Wow.
And his eyes lit up. He said, I'm looking for someone to lead a team of young developers. We're building solutions for foster care industry. And he gives me this like 15-second spiel. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I think so. You know, it was very weird to me.
Yeah.
No one had ever asked me in my life about foster care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we briefly exchanged information. We both got on the same flight.
Wow.
We're flying to Richmond, Virginia.
Wow, so you're both going home too.
Yes.
Was that his hometown too?
Yes. That's where he was living, going to VCU. So by the time, maybe a couple hour flight, we had got off the flight, he had already followed me on social networks. And I was like, okay, this may be kind of weird. But I was like, okay. And then he also,
almost like too convenient.
It was like weird, like, who's this weird dude?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then he sent me 3 things. He sent me a blog article that he had wrote that was on the White House website. He sent me, a letter of recommendation from Chelsea Clinton. And then the third thing that he had sent me was a video of him on stage with Bill Clinton, where literally that's where he was coming from, the Clinton Global Initiative.
Stop.
So
this whole time you think it's a weird dude.
I think it's a weird dude, and he knew what he was doing. he said, let me send him this stuff so he knows I'm the real deal. So I see the stuff and I'm like, okay, all right, let me maybe give you a little bit more attention. So I think maybe a week went by. I went by to have lunch with him, and he told me what he was doing, focus on child welfare, and him being a former foster youth, just really believe in this technology that can help solve the lack of support and resources for that. And he asked me, could I come on? And mind you, I'm working full time at the same place. I'm a CIO role. I'm like, bro, you just can't afford me. Like, I'm sorry.
Period.
And I was like, we looked at some things that could be, maybe part-time. And that's what kind of took off from there. He got his first little bit of money and he wanted me to come on full-time then. I said, no, I've seen this before. Don't bring me on full-time.
Yeah.
Let's take that money. Let's start building out the IT team. So we worked with some college students where they was going, and I basically was volunteering, ramping up that team.
Because you're really thinking about scaling.
I'm thinking about scaling. I'm building for the future, not the now.
Yes.
Right. So he ended up going to one of his funders and then finally getting enough money to bring me on.
Wow.
And literally my first week on a full-time at this job, we're at the White House, hosting the first ever foster care technology hackathon under the Obama administration, where we brought child welfare officials across the country together with tech officials from across the country from all the major companies for 3 days of hacking. And it was such an aha moment for everybody. You had the child welfare people saying, we can do what with technology? We don't need paper anymore. And you had the tech people saying, you're still doing what on paper? And that was
perfect.
That was the beginning of getting that weekend. We had regulations changed around how you can share data in child welfare that were in place pre the internet.
Wow.
So imagine restrictions on how you can share data before there was the internet. And the internet changed how we share data.
Yeah.
And it began.
Everything's out there now.
Everything's out there. And when we talk about an industry that, if you look at the most vulnerable kids in this country, our foster youth, there's not a single person that can tell you how many kids are in foster care right now.
Yeah.
There's a report that comes out like every 12 to 16 months.
Yeah.
And there's lag. But on the other hand, Amazon knows exactly what warehouse has the thing. They know what shelf. They know what robot is going to get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So the technology's out there. It's just not allocated.
It's not allocated. So that was my entry into social impact. And for me, it was a real connection because if I really look back at my entire life, there was a lot of people who was always, I was looking up to me, or I was providing stuff for them in terms of, remember, because I was that geek in honors classes. So friends with this. At the age of 16, 15 and a half, I got my first job, had my first car. You follow what I'm saying?
First car at 15?
Yes, but I was paying half of it. I was working. But look, remember I told you?
It's like amazing.
And then not only full-time in tech at 18, I only had an apartment. I think I had my first house that I purchased at 19.
All right, so you were talking about how you wish you had this community.
I do,
And let's look at what folks have been writing on here.
It's it's been an honor, Black excellence.
NSBE has inspired me to keep going,
no
matter the battle. Wow, I will always come out on top. Black people are amazing. I am a living, breaking, breathing genius.
You all belong in these spaces. Keep going.
What did these come? What did these come to mind for you?
It comes to mind. These are young people that are no different than where I was when I was young.
Yeah.
They understand that this, the technology space and where they're going, being the engineers, is very few of us.
Yeah.
And
we have to bridge the divide.
We have to bridge the divide.
Right.
And, sometimes it can get really, really tough. Not only whatever they're facing right now at school in their own communities, but they know what the outlook looks like in this bleak,
Yeah.
If we look at, even the major, software companies, they're only hovering around 3 to 6% Black.
Yeah.
So these young people already know that they're at a disadvantage when they get to where they want to be.
Exactly.
So, for some of them, that could be detrimental to them right now. So being able to do things to come together and keep that hope and that drive alive is really key for so many of them. So,
I see like be black and be great.
look at that. Be confident. You are more than qualified. Act like it.
Look,
This is
that
something
one's
huge.
big.
I tell young people all the time,
Yes.
too much imposter syndrome.
Too much.
And what they need to realize, especially, you know, a lot of these companies have turned the corner and realized from understanding they have a diverse consumer base.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the dollar rules everything.
It does. And we control the dollar.
We control the dollar. So at the end of the day, if you want to build solutions for all type of people, you need those people on the other side.
Exactly.
And that's something that I've seen a lot, but it hasn't resonated with our young people to be confident to go into those spaces and those interviews and not take that attitude, I'm lucky to have this chance.
But it's like, you're lucky to have me.
Facts. That's
Period.
Exactly what I say all the
Period.
time. You're lucky to have
and
me.
I feel like that's how I got my role. It is like, I have that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I got it, but I think that's something I wish other people had, is just know you have it. They're lucky to have it. See, you will be an engineer.
See, that's just, you
so
know.
it's like it's just claiming it.
Just claiming it.
That's why I love the NSBE community when I was in college. It's like, we all were like, yeah, we're like in these classes, we're figuring this out, but also we are the future. Right. And we got it. So
we definitely got it. Look at this. What is this? NSBE has helped and inspired me to grow so much in personal ways as well as professionally. Happy year to the best organization. Oh, happy 50th year to the best organization.
It looked like a so I get you. And so 50 years, so that's amazing.
That is amazing.
That's amazing.
That an organization has been around this long, doing what they're doing, founded by, you know, just 6 Black engineers, and what it's grown to, how big it is. Honestly, you know, I think for most companies, especially the ones that were here, they a wide range from a Microsoft to a Honda to a Nintendo to John Deere. Yeah. You know, if there's a true desire to, you know, find those Black talent, this is kind of that premier industry. And, you know, it's just great. And from all over, I look at this one. It says at BSU NSBE. That's Virginia State University. Okay, so that's home for me. Okay, so that's home. That's down the street. And to me, that brings me a lot of joy, just knowing that, you know, there are some young people that where I came from that now have a community to really help them. So. Okay, period. Child welfare space. You know, that was really great to be able to, you know, kind of travel the country, working with this organization, working with government agencies on how we can improve technology. It's very ironic. It was in the West Coast at a tech nonprofit conference. Wow. And this is tech nonprofit conference. Yeah. That was one of the early ones. Wow. Yeah. And what was very ironic was because I was a Microsoft guy, those are the tools I use. Yeah. And as the CTO of that nonprofit in child welfare, I had the team using Azure. And we was running into one particular issue. And you know this, Microsoft isn't the type of company you can call and say, hey, I got this problem, can y'all help me? Like, you on your own. You gotta figure it out. Exactly. You're gonna be waiting. Right. And waiting. So this tech nonprofit conference, they had it where you can do office hours with a Microsoft employee. So I signed up, I said, this is great. I'm gonna get the answer to this question so my team can figure out this issue. Did you get the answer though? I met the guy, cool guys, I don't know what. And I started to talk to him and he said, hey man, I gotta be honest with you. Today my first day and they sent me to this conference. So I said, okay, all right. So they sent him yeah, so I'm like, okay, you can't help me with that thing. So why? Okay. But he kind of hung out with me and the team the rest of the day. Yeah. And after the conference, he followed me on social media. I was giving him, you know, rap album suggestions. Period. And he messaged me one day and said, hey, you know, there's this new division called Tech for Social Impact, and we're going to be hiring some people. I'll let you know. Now, at the time, I got turned off and said, this man trying to poach some of my developers. Exactly. How dare he? Exactly. Ignored the message. 2 days later, 2 days later, he messages again and says, hey, here's your job description. I'll connect you with the hiring manager if you're interested. And I said, oh, he's thinking of me. And Jewel, when I tell you, I opened it up and never read a job description that was written for me. Wow. It literally said, looking for a thought leader to work with the world's largest nonprofits on their transformation to the cloud using Azure. That's you. And I said to myself, that's you. I said, I can do this. Like, I'll convince you at a bar to use Azure because I
Exactly.
believe in the tech. And then you know what also hit me? I can now, this is that next evolution of scaling Darrell. I go from, yes, doing great work with this one nonprofit.
Yeah.
Now I can join Microsoft and help so many more.
Global impact.
Global. And fast forward to today, you know, the program I created, 3,000 plus nonprofits are really taking
3,000
advantage.
plus, okay.
3,000 all across
Okay.
the country. Every community that you think of, really focus on, you know, bridging that digital divide, using the power of data and technology to really support Black and brown communities that are left out in a long-term sustainable way.
Yeah.
By
Because you're building for the future.
Building
You
for the
always
future.
keep that. I've seen that. That's a through line.
build for the future and the now, because some people could think, you know, there's major companies that can, you know, attempt to, you know, go to every, say, Black person and say, here's your success package courtesy of us.
Yeah.
Kind of like when we all got stimulus checks.
Exactly. It's like, okay, here you go.
Right.
Versus like, are you really going to be there? No.
Down the road.
Exactly.
Because if we think of that same example, like
Yeah.
there's 99% of the people can't even tell you what they did with their stimulus check or how it helped them. So instead of that model, how do we put the power behind the back of those people that's doing the work on a daily basis?
Yeah.
That's nonprofits, community-based organizations, and HBCUs. And for me, it was very twofold. One, let's give them the free technology so that from an operational standpoint, they can work like an enterprise organization,
Yeah.
which we know will have a huge impact. But guess what? We also gain partners at a hyper-local level, from North Lawndale here in
Yeah.
Chicago to the west side of Atlanta to Watts,
Yeah.
that now through these organizations, we can get all of the needed digital skilling and education into the hands that's needed.
Wow.
Because if we
now
think-
you're really training them. You're not just like, here's a handout. It's like, no, I'm actually helping, equipping you.
Equipping you with what you need, because at the end of the
Love
day,
that.
a lot of the disparities in this country come from a lack of knowledge and education
Yes.
and skilling.
Yeah.
So if we can bring that to them, you know what I mean, then that would truly make a difference.
Yeah. Period.
Period.
When we talk about bridging the digital divide, right?
Mhm.
Let's think about today with DEI. How do you think that's going to impact how companies invest in bridging the digital divide? Has anything really changed?
To answer your question, no, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
When I look at just the boom of DEI in 2020,
Yeah.
the racial recognition from George Floyd, you have, you know, a lot of these DEI jobs popping up out of
Yeah.
nowhere. You have these initiatives popping up. And I told people at that time,
Yeah.
and just from someone who has been in this for so long, the words I was using is, this is a moment in time.
Yeah. We even have this
Yeah,
conversation.
we had this conversation. The window will close.
Yeah.
So fast forward 5 years, I promise you, I don't care if someone add up all of the dollars that was spent that was put into the DEI initiative. If we look at the future, it's not moving the needle.
Yeah.
There's really not much that's different. A lot of it was misspent. A lot of it went to the wrong places.
Come on now.
I had so many of these, you know, peers in this space that was saying, I have all this money, I don't even know where to give it to. And I'm like,
And why do you have the money?
why do you have the money? So what I look at now is, just like in 2020, you know, all of the concepts as it relates to DEI, you know, wasn't something new.
Yeah.
You know, this is stuff that fight has been there since the existence. You know, the way I look at it, every nonprofit is focused on DEI.
Yeah.
It's helping someone who, you know, doesn't have a home, who has lack of education,
Yeah.
who has a disability,
Yeah.
all those things.
It's like they're being holistically inclusive by nature.
By nature,
It's not even effort. It's just natural.
that's the nature of their work. It's been there. Yes, we had this moment of time when a lot of people got behind it, and now it's under attack. But what I tell people is, we have to continue focusing at a hyper-local and ground level, and
Yes.
continue that work. You follow what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And continue doing it, because
How can we do it though? Like for folks that are listening, because you see it at the hyper local, how
Yes.
can we just help our neighbor?
I mean, that's literally it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, very something simple. There has to be some type of cause that people are passionate about.
Yeah.
There's something, if you look at, you know, your family member or something, and you see something that they're dealing with and struggling with, and, you know, you may have a child that's autistic, or, you know, something that what is going on. Okay, find an organization that's supporting that work. And one, of course, you can donate dollars. but you can also volunteer. And people also don't understand how to volunteer. And it's more than filling backpacks or packing meals. These nonprofits don't have the staff that they need. So if you're an accountant by day, said nonprofit, I'm sure could use a third of your skill to support them. And
that's how you can equip. And
that's how you equip.
Yeah.
And if we can, just like I said, back to what I said, put the power behind the back of those organizations that's doing that work for decades or hundreds of years, regardless of what an administration says, regardless of a 2020 movement.
Y'all hear this?
And we really focus on those organizations. They're the ones that's going to continue moving things now into the future.
Okay, period.
Period.
Period. So to wrap up, how do you make every day a yay?
Oh man, I make every day a yay by first prioritizing myself.
As you should.
I get up every morning and I work out. And, you know, one from a healthy standpoint, but also ensuring that no matter what the day ends, I've done something for myself before any BS comes into play. So for me,
you gotta fill your cup first.
I fill my cup first, because until I can fill mine, I can't do anybody else. So I just leave it at that. Like that is the one key for me, is really focus every day, even when I'm traveling or whatever, have my stuff, gym in a hotel, focus on me before anything else. And that really, really sets the bar for me. So every day is always a yay for me.
Yay! Well, folks, there you have it. We are with the iconic, the dynamic, the trailblazer, Darrell Booker. And remember that you have the power to make every day a yay!
Make it a yay!